On Christmas morning in 1996, Boulder, Colorado, a quiet, affluent town framed by the snowy Rocky Mountains, was supposed to awaken to the warmth of laughter, family gatherings, and the crinkle of wrapping paper. But inside the Ramsey home, joy turned to horror. 6-year-old JonBenet Ramsey, with her golden curls, glittering costumes, and radiant smile as a child beauty queen, would never open another present. Instead, she was found dead in the basement of her family's sprawling home, a tragedy that instantly transformed into one of the most infamous, controversial, and haunting criminal cases in American history. What began as a morning of celebration quickly unraveled into a nightmare so bewildering and chilling that, nearly 3 decades later, it still stands as one of America's most enduring unsolved mysteries. The Ramsey home became more than just a house. It became the epicenter of suspicion, grief, and unanswered questions. It began with a letter. On the staircase, Patsy Ramsey discovered a ransom note, 3 handwritten pages demanding $118,000 for JonBenet's safe return. The amount was eerily precise, mirroring John Ramsey's recent work bonus. The note's odd phrases and cinematic language raised eyebrows, references to a foreign faction, and threats that sounded rehearsed, almost theatrical. Unlike most ransom notes, which are brief and commanding, this one rambled with contradictions and unnecessary detail. Investigators later noted it was written on Patsy's own notepad, with a pen from inside the house. Why would kidnappers linger long enough to craft such an elaborate letter? Despite instructions not to call police, Patsy immediately dialed 911. Her trembling voice on the recording captured raw panic and disbelief, yet her actions set in motion a chaotic investigation that would forever taint the case. In those first few hours, opportunities to preserve the truth slipped away, replaced by confusion, contamination, and mistakes that could never be undone. From the moment officers entered, errors began to mount. Believing it to be a kidnapping, police allowed friends and neighbors to enter the Ramsey home, unintentionally contaminating the scene. People wandered through rooms, cleaned counters, even prepared food, destroying potential evidence. The house, which should have been locked down, became a hive of confusion. Officers failed to seal off key areas, failed to isolate the family, and failed to preserve what could have been crucial forensic clues. The ransom note had promised a phone call by 10 a.m., but the call never came. Hours later, John Ramsey himself decided to search the basement, though police had already combed it earlier. In a dim storage room, he discovered a sight that would scar him forever. JonBenet's lifeless body wrapped in a blanket, duct tape sealing her mouth, and a garrote made from a broken paintbrush tied brutally around her neck. Carrying her upstairs, John laid her on the floor, his anguished cries confirming what no parent should ever face. His daughter was gone. In that moment, the investigation pivoted from kidnapping to homicide, but the early damage had already been done. With the discovery of her body, suspicion fell almost immediately on the Ramseys themselves. Why had John ventured into the basement alone when police had searched it earlier? Why had Patsy invited people into the house rather than preserving the crime scene? Handwriting experts suggested the ransom note could not be ruled out as Patsy's, and its origin from her own notepad deepened doubts. Meanwhile, whispers began to circulate about 9-year-old Burke, JonBenet's older brother. Could a sibling quarrel have turned violent, leading the parents to cover up an accidental death with an elaborate staging? Though the Ramseys denied every accusation, the unusual circumstances painted them in a shadow of guilt. Investigators, torn between evidence pointing inward and the possibility of an outsider, found themselves ensnared in contradictions. Every answer opened new questions, and every theory seemed to collapse under its own weight. The family remained trapped between the roles of grieving parents and prime suspects. An alternative theory, however, refused to fade. Evidence hinted at the possibility of an intruder. A broken basement window, an unidentified boot print nearby, and foreign male DNA found under JonBenet's fingernails and on her clothing. DNA that did not match John, Patsy, or Burke. To some, this meant a stranger had entered the house on Christmas night, lurked undetected, and committed the crime before vanishing into the cold Colorado dark. But skeptics countered. How could someone navigate the house without waking the family? Why write a bizarre ransom letter instead of taking the child? Why kill her inside the home rather than flee with her? The intruder theory offered terrifying possibilities but left maddening gaps. keeping the case perched between suspicion of family and fear of a faceless outsider. Boulder residents, once comforted by the safety of their community, now shivered at the thought that a predator could have slipped through the cracks without leaving a trace. As the investigation stumbled, the media seized the story, turning JonBenet into a national obsession. Her pageant photos, dressed in sequins and tiaras, plastered every television screen and magazine cover, making her a tragic icon of innocence lost. But the same exposure fueled a ruthless public trial of her parents, with every tear, every word, every gesture dissected for guilt. Patsy Ramsey, already battling cancer, endured a decade of relentless suspicion until her death in 2006. Never charged, yet never absolved in the court of public opinion. Over the years, suspects surfaced and confessions emerged, but DNA consistently ruled out both the Ramseys and the self-proclaimed culprits. The foreign DNA profile remained unmatched, leaving only fragments of truth and a haunting absence of resolution. Today, nearly 30 years later, JonBenet would be in her 30s, perhaps raising children of her own. Instead, she remains frozen in time, her story locked in a web of ransom notes, broken windows, and unanswered questions. And the central riddle endures. Was her killer inside the house that night, or did evil slip silently in from the snow outside? Until the truth emerges, the mystery of JonBenet Ramsey will remain one of America's most chilling unsolved puzzles. An echo of innocence lost, and a reminder that sometimes the darkest secrets hide in plain sight.